Welcome to this afternoon session of the 7th Annual Google Camp Conference. My name is Isamar and I'll be your moderator tech for this session. I'm here to provide virtual support for you both and the presenter during the presentation. Should you have any questions or need assistance with the Zoom interface, you can use the chat icon on the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Search for moderator, send me a direct message, and I'll be able to assist you. And now to announce this session's the session title, Discover the Future of Jobs and the K-12 Digital Connection, presented by Jennifer Brown.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. And hello, everybody. Thanks for jumping in here with us today. I know it's right after lunch. Some of you might be feeling that little bit of food coma. I hope you've got some caffeine with you. I know I am locked and ready to go with that. So we are going to just dive right into it. So as Isamar said, my name is Jennifer Brown. I'm here with Google for Education. I'm a program manager who supports about 150 school districts in the state of California. And prior to that, I was an educational technology consultant at CDW. And then I was a tenured classroom teacher for a number of years, both in Chicago and in my hometown Des Plaines, which is in Illinois. So it's just a little bit of background about who I am. If you are looking at my shared slide and saying, Jennifer, the title of your title slide is a little different than what we have for the session. Am I in the right place? You 100% are. I have changed the title of this session many times. I dig so deep into this work and I just felt that this was a little more appropriate. So you are in the right place if you're here for Future of Jobs and the K-12 Digital Connection. And I want to kick off today by posing a question to you. You are in education, so I know at some point in your life, you have worked with young people, right? Whether that's the littles or up to high school and beyond. And when you talk with these young people and you talk with them kind of about their future, what is one question that you typically like to ask them? If you could just throw that in the chat when you're talking to a young person about their future, what is the question that you like to ask? Just take a second, think about that. What's something that you like to ask them? I'll kick it off. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Dr. Large. What do you enjoy doing? What are your interests, right? What are you passionate about? What else do you guys like to ask a young person when you're thinking about the future? What's something that you might ask? I know you guys are talking to them. What are you saying? Ooh, yeah, Ashlyn. What do you want to be when you grow up? What is your dream job? Ooh, yes, I love it. How did I know that we were going to be focused on career, right? That age-old question that we always ask young people, right? It's just top of mind. That's the type of society that we live in. We automatically go to, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Boy, have I asked this question to dozens and dozens and dozens of young people. And when I was teaching first grade, they would say, oh, well, Mrs. Brown, I want to be a firefighter. Or, you know, I might get a cute little one. Oh, Mrs. Brown, I want to be a teacher just like you, you know, melt your heart kind of thing. And honestly, this question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I think that it used to make maybe a little bit more sense back when jobs didn't change that much, right? Back when the job market was much more stable or predictable. But here we are, y'all. We're in 2022, okay? We have come out of a pandemic and we are currently in the midst of a job market disruption. And what do I mean by a job market disruption? What I mean by that is that traditional jobs are being replaced by automation, and entirely new industries are being created. So I want you to consider asking this question to your students instead. What problem do you want to solve? What problem do you want to solve? And it doesn't have to be a social problem. It could be any problem. Heck, think of Shark Tank. Anyone who has walked into that tank, gone through those doors, they come in with a problem that they have worked to solve. And look at what Lisa said in the chat. What are you passionate about? This is calling on them to consider their passions. What are they passionate about that they want to solve? And once they think about that, then we should maybe push them to think, well, how are you going to solve it? Using your gifts, using your talents, using your experiences. There are a million ways to solve a problem, but your passions are going to determine how you're going to do it. Let's take a little example here. Let's think about climate change, right? The young people today think about Greta, right? They are fired up when it comes to climate change. When we think about how are they going to solve it, throw right now into the chat what maybe is a type of job that you think would be able to tackle climate change. Who might be tackling climate change? Throw that into the chat. Let's think. That's the problem that we want to solve. How are we going to solve it? Who's solving that problem? What do you guys think? I'll throw into the chat an idea here. Maybe an environmental scientist, right? Who else might be able to help tackle climate change, folks? Ooh, Maria says policymakers, politicians, sure, absolutely. Who else might be able to support solving climate change? Anyone have a thought? What if I threw this out to you? What if I said a photographer? Look at us adults in the room. We were really kind of thinking in our own narrow lane, right? When you're an adult, you're thinking that the people who might be able to solve climate change are the researchers, the policymakers, the scientists. What about photographers? What about those artists who are able to capture a vivid moment, something that's really going to spark a passion in someone that might be able to document it? So you could be a brilliant photographer, and that's the way you tackle climate change. Start with your passion. How are you going to solve it? And then once they think about that, well, what are the skills that you're going to need to solve that problem? What skills, what ability, what knowledge? If we as educators are truly preparing our students to succeed in solving the problems that they want to solve, we need to give them opportunities to practice and hone those relevant skills. When I talk about what skills, some people say, well, I've gotten this before. Jennifer, here's the thing. We're preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist. How could we know what those skills are going to be? To that, I say, you're right. That is true. But the cool thing is there are organizations out there that are able to predict and use current market research to identify trends to get students on the right path. And that's what we're really going to dig into today. We are going to dig into the future of jobs. And here's the thing. This is the teacher in me, right? If you're going to understand the future of jobs, you have to understand the progression of the industry. And we can do this by understanding the Industrial Revolution. I want to ask you, we're in the middle of an Industrial Revolution right now. What number Industrial Revolution are we in the middle of? Are we in the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth? Throw it into the chat. What do you think? Which industrial revolution are we currently here, 2022 today, in the middle of? No worries about right or wrong answer. I'm just curious. What do you think? Lorena says the fourth. Lisa says number 4, numero cuatro. What are we thinking? Dr. Large the third. Stephanie has third. Ladies and gents, you are currently living in the era of the 4th industrial revolution. Woo, little party, woo, confetti here. You are in the middle of it right now. You are living in an era and a moment in time. And I'm going to take you through a 15-second snapshot of how we got to where we are today. All right. This first industrial revolution began back in the 18th century, and it was powered by water and steam. Steam and water power really replaced human and animal power with machines. That was the first one. Then in the 19th century came the advent of electricity, the internal combustion engine, airplanes, cars, phones, radios, mass production. Think Henry Ford and the assembly production line. Then the third industrial revolution kicked off in the 70s, and it was born from automation. Think electronics, the internet, information technology. These were all used to further the automation of mass production. And wow, here we are today, 2022. We are in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. Some call it the era of cyber physical. This is where new technologies are really fusing the physical, the digital, and the biological worlds at a rapid pace. Think artificial intelligence, mobile supercomputing, high-speed mobile internet. You've got intelligent robots, self-driving cars, genetic editing, 3D printing, immersive technology like the metaverse, big data analytics and cloud technology. It is booming, folks. So when you ask your students, what problem do you want to solve and how are you going to solve it? Remember the era that you are asking them this question in, and remember what tools are at their disposal that we necessarily might not have had when we were growing up. Technology. You're here at Google Camp, so I know that you know it is seeped into every aspect of our lives. But what maybe you haven't thought about is, while that is so important, and we're going to talk a lot about why that's so important today, we're also going to talk about the skills that are unique to humans. What can I do that is not easily replicated by an automated workflow or robotics? Now, as we think about what types of jobs our students might be solving problems within and the skills that they're going to need, I told you we're going to take a look at some trends. We're going to take a look at some market research. And I'm going to go and lean on the World Economic Forum for these statistics. If you're not familiar with them, they're a not-for-profit international foundation. They're made up of a blend of public and private sectors. Think your world's 1,000 leading companies. This is global, right? Academic institutions, international organizations, and they are really engaging and trying to improve the state of the world. And they put together every few years this Future of Jobs report. And what this report does is it looks at trends expected in jobs and skills of the future, really specifically between 2020 and the year 2025. And the very cool thing is, it is not just narrowly focused on the United States or North America. This is global, and it is not just focused on the technology industry, folks. It is looking at 20 different economies across 12 industry sectors. I'm talking infrastructure, oil and gas, consumer, aviation, global health. We're taking a look at all those industries. Now, we're going to take a little bit of look at the Future of Jobs report here, because we are constantly saying we are preparing our students to be college and career ready. How can we teach them to be career ready if we don't have a strong sense of what that actually looks like in 2022? Right? So we're going to take a look at what that means here. I've got a little infographic for you on this slide, and what it's showing you are the top 20 roles that are increasing in demand and decreasing in demand across those 12 industries. Take a look here. I put some blue arrows on your screen. What you're looking at are leading positions that are growing in demand. Take a look at these jobs that are shown. Robotics engineers, software and application developers, digital transformation specialists, AI and machine learning specialists. The top one there, data analysts and scientists. Then you're going to see some jobs that have never, ever been in a Future of Jobs report until it came out in 2020. You'll see that there in the darker blue. Process automation specialists, information security analysts, Internet of Things specialists. What do all of these really have in common? Throw something in the chat. When you look at these, either what are you wondering? What do you notice? What do they have in common? What is sparking in your mind? I'd love to know your thoughts, or you can feel free to come off of mute. Yeah, Dr. Large, I'm right there with you. Computer science, shout it to the hills. Yes. Yes, that is right. Specialist. That word is coming up a lot, a lot. Subject matter expertise for sure. Well, hey, this is not just showing you the jobs that are increasing. It's also showing you the jobs that are decreasing. Look at the red arrows. I'll read some of those for you because I know the text is kind of small. Data entry clerks, administrative and executive secretaries, assembly and factory workers, accounting, bookkeeping, payroll clerks. What do you notice that all these jobs that are decreasing in demand, what do you notice that they all have in common? What do they have in common? Throw that in the chat or feel free to come off of mute. What do you notice that these all have in common? Pamela says an AI can do them. Very interesting. Yeah, Ashlyn, programs might be able to do them. Lisa says data. Amanda, they can be automated. Y'all, you are right on the money, right? When you're looking at these, a data entry clerk, right? Accounting, bookkeeping, those are repetitive manual entry tasks. Those are tasks that a machine is going to be able to do it more efficiently. It's going to be able to do it faster. It's going to be able to do it more accurately. Do you know what is so funny? Do you know what I notice? And hey, I guess I can only speak from my experience, but I've talked with a lot of classroom educators and coaches, and they have seemed to agree with me. When I was back in the classroom, well, these are the kind of tasks that I had my kids doing on a daily basis. I say that, no shame, I admit that. I was having them do a lot of repetitive manual entry tasks. We're going to learn multiplication tables. We're going to do flashcards, right? Repetitive, rote. And if you really pause to self-reflect and do it with no judgment, there is no judgment here. When you think about how you have your classroom structured and how you have your learning tasks structured, are you providing opportunities for them to really take ownership as subject matter experts? To really, and we're going to dig deep into what some of those skills are, so this is kind of a sneak peek, to collaborate and problem solve. Are they getting those opportunities, or are a lot of them in silos and doing repetitive manual work? Because when we're saying getting them career ready, we'll look at the career landscape that we're getting them ready for, right? Let's take a look at the jobs of tomorrow. We're talking about job disruption and jobs going away. Well, that is actually counterbalanced by job creation in brand new fields that are called the jobs of tomorrow. Over the coming decade, they estimate that the jobs that are going away, well, they're going to be replaced by brand new occupations or existing jobs that are going to really undergo significant transformation as far as what skills are going to be required. Take a look at these categories of the newly emerging jobs of tomorrow. You can see the individual roles, but you can also see them bucketed out into these different content areas. Cloud computing, data and AI. Think about when Dr. Large said computer science, right? Geez, that's going to be a huge theme in this. Engineering. But then you know what else I notice? Look at the human, very human elements that can't be replicated by a machine. For example, sales. Well, sales, that's a sector that's as old as time, y'all. Sales has been around since people, I'm sure, could communicate. Man has always been trying to sell to his fellow man. That is still something that is very human, but the way that we're selling is changing and evolving. Same for things like marketing. Look at the push now towards digital marketing specialists, head of digital, e-commerce specialists, because the way businesses do business with each other, that is evolving and changing. This is a whole new world, folks, that we're getting them prepared for. Ooh, Pamela, I love that. Understanding humans at a deeper level through all of that data collection. Absolutely. And I smile because Dr. Large makes a great point here. You know, he wouldn't have been able to do this conference without the support of a secretary, right? Well, think of how that person's job has evolved from even a decade ago. Imagine 20 years ago. It is so different now. Now, when we think about getting them career ready, and we want to talk about what skills are they going to need to succeed in these jobs that we're looking at right here on the screen. How am I going to prepare my kids to succeed as an artificial intelligence specialist or a data scientist? Python developer, or even some of these others like a customer success specialist. It's not just the tech industry, even though there is a large emphasis on that growth here. So let's take a look at what some of those emerging and declining skills are. Now, since this first came out in 2016, the Future of Jobs report has been tracking skills that are increasing and decreasing in demand. And the figure that you can see on your screen right now, it's illustrating for you the top skills and skill groups that are rising in prominence up to 2025. And that's including groups like critical thinking and analysis, problem solving. All of that has stayed at the top of the agenda with year-on-year consistency. Then there's new skills that are emerging this year. And if you're a teacher, I bet you could have predicted some of this, right? Look at this. Self-management, active learning and learning strategies, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. If you work with young people on a daily basis, you know that this is not something that just comes naturally. This is something that is taught, that is practiced. That is something that you really, really need to put effort in to understand how to manage stress, how to have self-management and be resilient. And this is not just something that they need to succeed in a career. This is something they need to succeed in life. So I love looking at these, and then I kind of look at which ones are decreasing. If you can see in this top section, there are 3 different colors, a tan, a light blue, and a dark blue. If you look at the tan, those are the skills that are decreasing in demand. Physical abilities is one that is going down as more and more things are automated by software or machines. Now, what I love that the Future of Jobs report does is they take all this data and then they give us their top 10 skills of 2025. And this is where we as educators can start to see patterns. We can begin to group some of these based on fundamental tenets of those skills. Take a moment to look at this list. Take a minute to look at this. What does this make you wonder? Or what questions pop into your mind? I know something that made me really happy. I loved seeing creativity on here. This is huge. How often are we giving students an opportunity to be creative? Not saying that you're not doing it, but how often with all the demands that we have in our daily work? What do you guys wonder when you look at this? Feel free to throw your thoughts into the chat. Something when I look at this that I see is a repeated call for higher order thinking skills, emotional intelligence, self-management, and technology proficiency. Yes, active, not passive. And we are going to talk about how to teach these skills. Social influence. Yes, Ashlyn, I noticed that too. I was also thinking about social media because that doesn't necessarily have to mean social media, but it definitely could, because that is such a huge thing in the marketing world today, right? Using social media influencers. So the World Economic Forum actually takes these skill buckets and groups them into the 4 that you can see in the bottom left key. They have this bottom left key here, and each of these skills they assigned a color to, and then they assigned a skill bucket to it. And I'm going to take that little small key and I'm going to actually make it its own slide because I think it's incredibly important. Right here, we have been given, when we say, what skills are they going to need to be career ready? Well, here they are, folks. They're going to need to be able to problem solve. They're going to need to be able to self-manage, work with other people, and technology use and development. No matter the industry, remember, they were looking at 12 different sectors. They were looking at agriculture. It is not just developers. They were looking at all types of industries. Technology is integrated across all of them, right? So I'm going to refer to these as life and career skills, and I'm sure that if you are an educator or an education leader, these categories are likely not a surprise to you. We have an idea that this is what our students need because we work with them every day. We know the importance for them to work with other people. But the question becomes, and this is something Maria kind of referenced in the chat, with all of the priorities that you face in your district or your school, how do we ensure that there's a targeted effort to provide students with opportunities to practice these on a weekly, if not a daily basis, right? That becomes the big challenge that we're up against. We're going to dig into these a little bit deeper, and I'm going to give some recommendations for how you can integrate these into the classroom. I'm actually going to start it off with technology use and development, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it into the lens of education, because the Future of Jobs report isn't written necessarily with K-12 education in mind, right? But I'm going to take it and I'm going to filter this. What is something that is so important as educators in K-12 education? Accessibility. When we're talking technology use and development, we cannot have that conversation without also talking about accessibility. Because guess what? We want our students to practice with technology, creating and developing using technology. But guess what? As teachers, especially after the pandemic, when nearly most districts now in the United States are one-to-one after the pandemic, you are all living and working in digital environments. You are all doing these skills within your career as an educator. You are tasked with technology use and development. So how can you feel that you are doing it in a way where you're making it accessible for all your students? I have something that can help you out with it. Throw a smiley face into the chat if you are already familiar with the Universal Design for Learning guidelines. I just want to get a quick pulse. Throw a little smiley. Yay! Oh, I love that. Oh, I've got 2 smileys, 3. Wonderful. And they're coming in. They're coming in hot. Oh, amazing. This makes me feel so happy. If you are not familiar with it, consider this the Spark Notes version. I am not going to do justice to it. This could be its own Google Camp session. Maybe it is its own session already. For many people, this is a years-long professional development effort to really understand them. But I want to just give you the Cliff Notes version to kind of wet your beak on this so that way you can dig into it deeper on your own. Because when it comes to technology use and development, both for you as the teacher and for the student, we have to think about the user experience, also known as UX design. Okay, you are creating digital environments for your students to engage and learn within. And this goes beyond core concepts of technology into kind of a broader area of understanding these truths, okay? Human beings, we are neurodiverse. And so we interact with and we learn information in diverse ways, okay? So a framework has been built out to support this inclusion conversation by a wonderful nonprofit education research and development organization. They are known as CAST, and this is known as the Universal Design for Learning Framework. It was built to really improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how students learn. Now, the framework has a companion resource. That's the screenshot I have for you right here. These are called the learning guidelines. That's what you see on your screen right now. And it is a concrete set of suggestions that can be applied to any discipline, okay, to ensure that all of the learners in your class can access and participate in really meaningful and challenging learning opportunities. So later on, very, very soon actually, we are going to look at digital creator tools. And I'm going to talk about how each tool has accessibility built into it. When you think about bringing it into your classroom, you want to make sure that that's been thought through. So again, if you're not familiar with these guidelines, Google it, it'll come up for you right away. You can look up UDL as well, which is the acronym for this. I highly suggest that you dig deeper into them because technology is something that we are not getting away from. For some people, it might bring back bad memories of maybe having to do virtual teaching, and that was such a challenge. I stay in touch with all the folks that I taught with. We're still very close friends, and I had many a long conversation with them about just how draining that was. Now, as we think about our digital environments, and this is me coming off fresh from ISTE, I wonder if you all ever feel like this. I call this the digital tool overload, where I was at ISTE and my brain was just spinning as I walked through that expo hall. I was like, okay, I know maybe half of these, but I don't know the rest of what do they do? Should I know about these? I can't even imagine being at ISTE as a classroom teacher feeling like, oh my gosh, should I know all of these? Should I be using these in my classroom? As teachers, so many of us are the type of person where we feel like if it's available, we want to give it to our kids because more is better. We want to go for the 64 box of Crayola crayons. We want every color, right? Because more is better. Well, here's what I'll say to you. There are different types of technology in the classroom. You've got your LMS, right? Your learning management system. You have your digital curriculum. Maybe you're using, Pearson for math or Houghton Mifflin Wonders, something like that. And then you've got what I always think of as kind of the fun, creative tools. I call them digital creator tools. And those are the ones where students are able to create a product or an artifact that shows their learning, right? I call those digital creator tools. And when I was in the classroom, I probably used about 64 of them, okay? I had a lot. There's a lot out there. But over time, through experience, through research, through talking with my PLN, I have narrowed it down, and this is the message I bring you today. When it comes to digital creator tools, you don't need the 64 box of Crayola crayons. You can narrow it down to the 4 box. I know. You feel like, wait, what, Jennifer? You want me to narrow it down? Now, here's what I'm saying. My caveat is I'm not saying get rid of the LMS. I'm not saying get rid of the mandated curriculum. It's got a place. We got to use it. But when it comes to those tools that you're going to let students use to kind of build out an artifact or a project to show their learning, instead of throwing 64 crayons at them, why not give them an opportunity to practice those life and career skills and really hone in and get good with the fundamentals? There are 5 fundamentals. I wish Crayola had a 5 crayon box because it would make the metaphor just chef's kiss. But I've got 5 for you, okay? And here's what we're going to look for. This is through my experience, just through some reading and research and talking with other folks. Here are the look fors when you are evaluating. Think of this as a little rubric, a creator tool. The first one is creation. Does it have the opportunity for a student to experience the blank canvas effect? The blank canvas effect is literally that, beginning from nothing, starting with a white space. Templates are great. A template for a student can be great, especially if it's their first time using a tool. But after we have advanced beyond that, allowing the student the opportunity to really need to problem solve and create from nothing. Does it offer the blank canvas effect? The second look for is a shared project space. And by that, I mean collaboration. Y'all know Google Docs, right? It's the old reliable. You know that if you want to collaborate with someone, Google Docs is going to work every time, right? So we're not the only ones that can do that, folks. A lot of technology providers have now added that component in. To me, that is a must-have. Does it have a shared project space? And then third, which maybe this even could have been first because of its importance, universal design for learning. Does it provide multiple means of representation for information to be shared? And by that, I mean, if a student does better explaining themselves through video, is that an option in that tool? If they do better with images, or with digital inking? Is that an option in the tool? Or does it restrict them to only allow 1 or 2 ways? So that is what we're going to look at. And we're going to talk about how we can use these tools to teach those life and career skills and help them learn technology use and development. So let's dig into kind of my top 5 crayons that I said. These are my top 5 digital creator tools. Okay. The very first one. Don't laugh now. You might say, Jennifer Brown, I have no, get out of here. Pack her up, Dr. Large, get her off the stage. We know about this. I've known PowerPoint from day one. I've known Google Slides. Yes, I know you have, but believe me, this one is often so underutilized. I mean, people will utilize it for like a simple slide presentation like what I'm giving you here today, right? They'll use it for that. But there is so much that you can do with it, especially from the lens of accessibility. I need to call this out because this is the core digital creator tool that everybody I think is underutilizing. I really, really do. Now, one example of it, and I'm going to show you this actually right here. Maybe you didn't know this, but in Google Slides, you can turn on closed captioning. You can turn on closed caption with Google Slides. This is one that gets slept on often, and it can be game changing for a student. So if a teacher is using slides, I always recommend turning on closed captioning. Heck, I should have had it on from the beginning of the presentation, but I saved it for the wow factor. I want you guys to use this. It's very simple. When you're in present mode, you go to this menu of 3 dots, caption preferences, toggle captions on, okay? Very simple to use, but powerful. Imagine a student recording themselves on a screencast, giving a presentation with the closed captions on, and what doors of accessibility that opens. Here's the other thing. Speech to text is available for the speaker notes within Google Slides. That is so key. Not only that, but you can express yourself in so many ways in a presentation builder. Yes, we know about text and images, but the video is so important. The fact that you can embed that right in there, and the fact that it is the truly ultimate blank canvas. So one that I like to call out as well, Google Docs, they recently launched a pageless format that you can do for Google Docs now. So you know how when you are in Google Docs, typically there's a little gray bar that separates the pages. It removes that and it lets it become almost an infinite canvas, if you will. I remember before they launched this, when I would put a table into my Google Doc, sometimes if I wanted to make it longer, it would make the boxes too small and it just became a pain and I'd have to make a spreadsheet. Well, now if you use the pageless format, you can make your tables as long as you want. So again, it's that blank canvas effect, allowing you more freedom for creation. Don't sleep on the presentation builder, folks. It's something that they're going to take with them no matter what job they work in. They will be able to really express themselves with it. Now, on that same note, my second crayon, my digital creator tool, fundamental, is a website builder. Websites are so powerful because they offer, and I have this right here written out, the bridge to authentic audience opportunities. Well, what do I mean by that? When we as teachers give an assignment to a student, think about who is going to see the final product that they make, who is going to be looking at their learning, who's going to see the actual artifact. If it's just going to be you, sometimes, okay, that might be appropriate. But what if you could give them more motivation by letting them know that their work is going to be seen by their peers? And you can utilize something like a Google Sites or even a blogger, something like that. Something like Google Sites you can do within a walled garden so you know that it's not getting into the outside world, just folks within the domain being able to view that website. Think of just how much more meaningful that work becomes for them, right? And when it comes to website building, this is a huge opportunity for them to practice that life and career skill of technology use and development. Always the website builder, that was always a hit with my kids when I gave them the opportunity to make that, because not only are they practicing the actual Common Core standard, like whatever they're doing if it's a research project, but you're giving them the opportunity now to practice building out technology, which is huge. It's huge. Now, the third one that I would bring up is a video editor. Again, you might be like, all right, Jen, I've known about iMovie for a long time. That is true, but it doesn't always have to be, you know, a big production with the huge opening title and musical sequences and the transitions. Kids love that stuff and give them opportunities for that, but they can also use shorter videos frequently for things like exit tickets. And one of the best things that I have found are screencasting as a way to do that. And this is actually perfect because Google just announced at the end of June a new app that is on Chromebooks. It came out with the release of the operating system M103, which is out now. So if you have a Chromebook, try it out and see if you have it. The app is called Screencast. I am obsessed with it because it doesn't just record your screen, right? It actually auto creates a transcript of your video, and it is tied to your video. So that way, if you scroll through the transcript, if you search up a keyword, like if a student you did a lesson on photosynthesis and they wanted to quickly search that keyword, it'll go directly to that point of the video, and you can edit your video within the app as well. It's just a cool thing that makes it so much faster for them to be able to do this type of work. So definitely be sure to check that one out. There is also a third-party app, Screencastify, if you don't have a Chromebook. And of course, WeVideo is a Chromebook editor I highly recommend. You can do a lot with it. Now, this one is huge. Digital inking. It is the power of the pen, folks, and translating it back to the screen. If you are lucky enough for your students to have digital inking capabilities, take advantage of it. Oh my gosh. I think back to, I had a student, Michelle, when I was teaching 5th grade, and she, granted, did not do it digitally. She preferred paper and pen, which is totally valid too. She liked to sketch note. She would doodle what I was talking about, and that is how she made connections in her brain. When we're thinking about universal design for learning and how people process information, the ability to sketch note things out and create diagrams and annotations that way, that is just, it's unbelievable what can happen with that. And one thing that I would highly recommend is to think about a whiteboarding app, providing students the opportunity to sketch note, right? We're giving them options so that way they can process information in their own way. Yes, Jamboard is a great one that comes from Google. My personal favorite, though, is one that works on iOS. So if you're on iPads, this one works. It's also working on Chromebooks. I'm sure it works on PCs because it's browser-based. Explain Everything is a dynamite app. It is probably my favorite third-party app. Hand on heart. I love this one because you want to talk about the ultimate blank canvas. That's what Explain Everything gives you, and allows you to embed audio, video, images, text. It allows you to screen record what you're actually doing. You can point at things with a laser, circle, highlight, digitally annotate. It is just mind-blowing. If you have never used it before, highly recommend you check it out. Now, we're talking about being career ready. And we're talking about being career ready in the 4th Industrial Revolution. So this final crayon, I beg of you to include this, please. It doesn't have to be this exact program, but some semblance of computer science in your classroom, if you can. It's not just an issue of getting kids, practicing with coding. For a lot of them, it's an equity issue. When we look at who is getting these engineering jobs in the United States, we want to see that diversified. We want all students, regardless of their zip code, to have access to computer science programming. And I am going to give you some recommendations for how to get them into that type of programming. One that you can immediately start with is CS First, known as Computer Science First. It's a great program for grades about 4 through 8. I think it's appropriate for. Lessons take about an hour to complete, and they're fully baked, folks. You do not have to learn how to code for students to be able to do a lesson with you. You can just follow the guide that they give you. It uses the platform Scratch. It is super simple. And one website that I love to give, and I'm going to quickly copy the link address and throw it in the chat for you right now. This website talks about how you can integrate universal design for learning with CS. So definitely be sure to check that out. Now, if you're wondering, okay, Jennifer, I use a lot of these in my classroom. How can I level it up even more? How can I give my kids more opportunities to practice technology use and development, which is one of those core skills we talked about from the World Economic Forum? I have some digital skills curriculum for you. The first one that I put on here, kind of already talked about that one, was CS First. And I'm going to quickly copy that link and throw it for you guys in the chat. If you haven't been there before, check it out. But another fantastic app to know about, and let me copy this one as well. Boom, here you go. It is called Grasshopper. It is a great beginner coding app. It uses 5-minute activities. They're bite-sized. They include really fun lessons like visual puzzles, and students can complete it on iOS, Android, and all web browsers. So they can learn with fun, quick lessons on their phone even, to teach you to write real JavaScript. And you move through progressively challenging levels as you kind of develop your abilities, and you graduate at the end with the fundamental programming skills that you need to take that next step as a coder. Now, if you work with let's say older high school students who maybe want to do some self-guided work, check out Google Developers. It includes self-guided coding exercises, quizzes, technical articles, video tutorials. Here is the link for that, and it is around machine learning. Now, Ashlyn, for kinders, one that I would recommend, it's not from Google, but let me find it right now. Okay. This is from back in my days when I worked at CDW, actually. This right here is Kibo. I just put a link in the chat. This would be appropriate for kinders. It's actually screenless coding. And yes, Nancy, I will share the presentation at the end with you as well. Kinder Labs launched Kibo, which is teaching the basic skills of programming, kind of like the if this, then this. Take a look at that. That one I think would be appropriate for kinders. That one, again, is not from Google. That's just something that I learned from back when I was consulting. Now, I need to call this one out. This is huge because I was talking about this as an equity issue. I want to bring your attention, if you work with high school students, please, please take a look at Code Next. Code Next is Google's program that works with high schoolers to really cultivate that next generation of Black, Latinx, and Native tech leaders. So students join us for Code Next programming. They either can do it in person at one of our Code Next live labs or through our online program, Code Next Connect. And we teach computer science, problem solving, how to be a creative computational thinker. And they're not just learning about coding, they're learning how to be leaders. They are in a mentor-mentee relationship with a real Googler where they can learn things like that self-management, self-resilience, really stepping up and problem solving. They're going to produce websites, programs, and other demonstrations of their learning and interests. And they can engage both in solo and team projects. So they're getting that aspect of working together. And the programs take place after school or on the weekend. Absolutely check it out if it's something that you haven't seen before. Now, this one isn't new, but you might be someone that's kind of newer to this space and haven't heard of it. And if that's you, I want you to know this one, Applied Digital Skills. It is a free online digital skills curriculum. I just threw the link for it in the chat. It is for middle school, high school, college, and beyond, folks. This is for adult learners too. This is all about future of work practical skills, and it uses videos to guide learners through creating a actual tangible product from scratch. That might be something like building a resume in Google Docs, designing an infographic in Google Drawings, or planning and budgeting for a community service project in Google Sheets. Now, I know that some of you are teaching the younger students. How do we teach them skills around technology and existing in the fourth industrial revolution if they're in second grade? We got you covered. Be Internet Awesome is our digital citizenship curriculum for grades 2 through 6. If you haven't checked it out before, I highly recommend you take a look at it now. It covers topics that are really, I like the way they do it because they use language that students will understand, like share with care, right? That's think like password management. Don't fall for fake. Secure your secrets. It's cool to be kind. When in doubt, talk it out. So learning about how to engage and how to be in this digital world that we live in. It does have the ISTE seal of alignment, so you know it's a quality curriculum, and it uses something called Interland, which is an online adventure and takes them through 4 challenging games. Now, that was what we have available for students. We also have curriculum for teachers because, again, you are a profession that is existing in this fourth industrial cyber physical revolution. How are you finding opportunities yourself to really hone those technology use and development skills? We do have training for teachers, and not just for teachers, but this one also includes training for families. It is the Teach from Anywhere Hub, and it was launched during the pandemic as a way to support teachers who were having to teach remotely and manage virtual classrooms. And it has resources about all of those things, like how to keep kids engaged, how to make lessons accessible to them all. Most of us are back in person, but there is independent study options available in California, like virtual academies. So if that speaks to you, definitely check this out. And if you're a tech TOSA or even a teacher that's being asked to, hey, can you create like a little guide for our parents on what Chromebooks are? Or can you give them a breakdown of like what apps we use in the classroom? We've already got that all created for you. So don't reinvent the wheel. Check out our tech toolkit for families and guardians. It has a video series, a glossary, guides about Chromebooks and Google Workspace, even family conversation guides like how to create a healthy digital habit or how to use social media responsibly. So make sure you check that out. Now, if you are someone who's maybe you came from Microsoft district, now you're teaching in a Google district or something like that, and you're like, Jennifer, can you please help me get a little bit up to speed? I got you. I'm throwing a link in the chat right now. It's our Getting Started with Google for Education series. This one is for the person who has just no time to even, breathe. It is an email series that gets delivered to your inbox every Tuesday for 8 weeks. It takes less than 10 minutes to complete a tutorial. They are text and video based. And the cool thing is we have 4 different editions of Google Workspace now. We have training tutorials for all of them, so you can make sure you're getting the right content. Now, if you want to go even deeper, I'm talking like certifications. Maybe you're someone who is a coach who does one-to-many trainings and you want to be a Google certified trainer. Check out the Teacher Center. The Teacher Center is constantly being updated with new content, new materials. It has guidance for you around accessibility and digital citizenship, resources with lesson ideas and materials, like, for example, culturally responsive classrooms, all things that we need to know. Now, I believe I've only got about 6 minutes. I wanted to leave some time for discussion. Anyone who maybe had any questions, I do want to flash up the reference list because this presentation was not made all from my own brain. I did a lot of research for it, and I want you to be able to take a look at these primary sources. And a lot of people were saying, Jennifer, can we get the link for this deck? Absolutely. Right now, I just threw the link for you in the chat. There it is, folks. This is a deck that I'm also going to be giving at a Google Summit that's happening in the next 2 weeks. So that's why the hyperlink looks a little different than Google Camp. But hey, it'll take you right to the presentation there, folks. With that, we've got 5 minutes. I am here. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear if you have any questions or feature requests. I love to connect with you. So feel free to throw something in the chat or come off of mute. What are you thinking? We just went through a lot.
I'll just quickly say I was in your class yesterday and I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't come again, but I'm so glad I did, because just rehearing all of the resources that I want to hopefully utilize or go back and learn more about, because, you know, information overload. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad that you were able to join us again. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. I really do. Anyone have any thoughts for like, wow, you're going to walk away with this? Like, what is the one thing? Because after we sit through a presentation like this, you can only take in so much, right? The human brain is only able to take in so much. You're probably going to go back later. What do you think is going to be one of the one things that's going to stick with you? What is really kind of logged in your mind that you're like, ooh, I want to remember that? I know for me, when I was doing the research and at dinner, I would talk about it with my husband. We were talking a lot about future of jobs for many dinners, and we were going into it. And what I told him was, Alex, I work in ed tech. And when I looked at that list of the emerging jobs, I was like, I couldn't tell you what like half of them even meant. And that showed me that I had so much more to learn, that I had so much more to learn. Oh, Jenny, I am so happy that you learned about closed captions from this session. That is a win for me. Like, that is big. That could be life-changing for a student now that you know about that. So that makes me so happy, so happy. Wonderful. Amanda says, teaching those critical skills of the future. Absolutely. If you are a general education teacher in elementary school, and I know how much you guys have right now, you're dealing with trying to teach Common Core, you're trying to also make sure you're touching social emotional learning, you're trying to do anti-bullying, you're trying to just survive, frankly, some days. I am not that far removed from being in the classroom, guys. I still have dreams about it, and I probably will forever, okay? But if you can just find, I know it's hard, but if you can just find an hour in the whole week, even if it's every 2 weeks, 1 hour, to just expose them from a young age. Even like when I put, I don't care if it's not Google, if it's Kibo that I threw into the chat for the littles, help them start learning that computational thinking. That will be so key for them to learn. Just simple components of inputs and outputs, and if this, then that. I mean, that is going to be just, it could be life-changing. Yeah, Maria, the focus on creativity. That one is so key, so key. And feel free to show these slides. I saw Stephanie said, can't wait to share with my students and their parents. Absolutely. Please feel free. And one thing that I will say, I'm going to just quickly, let me go back into my deck and let's see, where did I put, here we go, World Economic Forum. I'm going to find for you guys right now. So I linked, here is the link for the full World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report that came out in 2020. I'm sure that they are going to be releasing a new one very soon, but I also want to find for you, give me 1 second, here, boom. I'm throwing it in the chat. Here is the link to get all the infographics that I used. So that way you can get the full size instead of just trying to copy it from my presentation. Go to the source, y'all. That's the source where I pulled the infographics from. Grab those, use them. It's kind of cool. It goes deeper into stuff I didn't even touch on here. Like, what is the share of women in the jobs of tomorrow? Only 12% of the folks in cloud computing are women. Only 26% of data and AI folks are women. Take a look at that. There's just some stuff in there that I didn't even have time for. It gets into the rate of automation of human versus machine. It gets even deeper, y'all. So be sure to check that out. Now I know we're at time, so I will stop there so you can get to your next session. But thanks all so much. I really, really appreciated it. And it's in the schedule now, the slides, and I will throw them in the chat one more time. Thank you so much, folks. Have a great rest
Jennifer.
of Google
That was
Camp.
amazing.
Yay!
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Anytime, y'all.